So today we'll start with functions. Okay, so basically what's the understanding of function, like what is the definition of function? You should understand that first, right? Okay, so if I just go here to tutorials point, I've told you about the site before also, right? So you can see a function basically is a group of statements. Okay, fine. So group of statements that are together to perform a certain task. Okay, so that is the basic definition of function. Okay, now let's assume I want to write a program. Okay, and in that program what I want to do is I want to add two numbers. Okay, fine. And after I do addition of two numbers, I write certain lines of code, and after that again I want to do the addition of two numbers, right? And after that I write, suppose say, three lines of code again, and after that again I want to do the addition, right? So in this scenario what you will be doing is you might basically have to write those couple of lines of code again and again, right? But now what we can do is we can create a function. Okay, and in that function we'll perform the operation, we'll perform the addition of whatever is there, and we'll simply call that function whenever we want. Okay, so we don't have to write the four lines of code, five lines of code, two lines of code again and again. Okay, so that is your basic definition, you would say, of function. Okay, so that is why we are using functions. Okay, now in previous examples also, when we did string related operations, we used certain functions: strlen, cmp, strcat, strrev, right? These were the functions that we used, that were already present in string.h header file. Okay, but now what we want to do is basically we want to create our own functions. Okay, so for creating our own functions we should understand that a function has four major parts. Okay, okay, now what are those four major parts? First one is the return type. Okay, now what this return type is, I'll explain you in a bit. Okay, means whatever the value you're sending back, that will be the return type, but I'll explain you when we kind of try to write the code. Okay, second is the function name. Now this can be anything. Okay, this can be anything. You can write your name if you want. Only thing is it should follow the general naming conventions, like it shouldn't start with a number, it shouldn't have contain a space in between. If there is a space you can separate, if you want to give a space separated by an underscore, right? Okay, then we have these round brackets, and in these round brackets we have certain thing called as arguments or parameters. Okay, you can call it arguments, you can call it parameters. And finally the fourth part, which is that is the body. Inside this we will be doing any operation that we want. Okay, now this function which is there, this entire function will be responsible for one specific task. For example, say if I tell you create a calculator. Now calculator will have addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, these four basic operations, right? Okay, so what I can do is I can create individual functions, that one will take care of addition, one will take care of subtraction, one function will take care of the multiplication, and one function will take care of the division. Okay, and based on that thing we'll create different functions now. So now every function which is there, that is created for a specific task. That is what the basic definition is, right? So group of statement that together perform a specific task, that perform together a task, or rather you can say a specific task. Okay, so let's try to kind of create a function now. Okay, now in this also, okay, when we are trying to create a function, now there are kind of couple of ways that you can go about it. Okay, one thing is you can declare and define the function at the top outside the main. Okay, now we are not going to create the function inside the main, we will be creating function outside the main. Okay, suppose say I create a thing called as void function underscore 1. Okay, and I give in this brackets this thing, and I write void over here and give a semicolon. Now this is just the declaration part. Okay, now for the definition what I'll do is under the main I'll write void function underscore 1 function space underscore 1 round brackets, and here I'll write the definition. Suppose I'll say okay, fine. Suppose I'll say printf, and I'll say hello world. Okay, fine. So this was the definition, this is the sorry, that was the declaration, this is the definition. Fine. Okay, And here you can, what you can say, if you want to kind of run this line of code. Now because now then again one more thing, I'll just give it to you. Okay, fine. Suppose say I'll say function basics. Okay, yeah. Okay, suppose say I try to compile this code, I will have zero error, zero warnings, but okay, fine, it's taking a bit of time. Okay, fine. So I have zero error, zero warnings, but when I try to run this program, I will not get any output. There is no output at all, and the program has ended. Right? Why? Because the program execution starts from the main. Right? Even if I have written these things, the execution will start from this line, and inside the main, what I have written, nothing. Right? So if I want to run these lines of code, I will have to call this function. Now how will I call this function? Inside the main, I'll write the function name, and I'll specify those round brackets and then a semicolon. Okay, so now this is called as a function call. Okay, this is your function declaration and this is your function definition. Okay, fine. So now when I suppose say save it, compile it, zero error, zero warnings. Now when I run it, okay, I am getting this hello world over here. Okay, this is the first method which is there. Declaration on the top, then the main, and the definition below the main. Okay, second type which is there, or second kind of method which is there of kind of creating a function is declaration and definition at the top directly. Okay, now this is a little bit more easier, I would say. Declaration and definition, both of them, like basically this is declaring and defining that everything together at the top only, and under that below that you're writing the main, and then you're calling this thing. Okay, now if I save this thing, I'll say compile it, I'll say run it, I'm getting the same result. Okay, what you cannot do is you cannot declare and define the function below the main. Once you do this thing, okay, if I say compile this thing, it will give me, okay, it's giving me this warning, conflict type function 1, because what the happen, like what it is happening is, like in dev C++, now it is giving a warning. If you try it in suppose say turbo C or any other kind of dev instance or IDE, maybe it will give an error directly straight away. Okay, now what is happening is your program counter starts from this line. It took this stdio.h, it came over here, it encountered void main, so in after void main execution starts, right? So once it came onto here, it didn't know what to do about this thing now, because function and func underscore 1, what is this? The system doesn't know. There is no function definition in stdio.h, something like this. Okay, so what it did was it came down and basically it was trying to kind of search it, but then again that is why you're getting a warning. If you try it in turbo C, you will get an error directly, right? So it's kind of a practice. Basically, if you're giving the declaration and definition, give it at the top directly, and then you give your main program main function, and inside the main function you'll call these functions. So what happens is when the program counter encounters this function lines, so what it does is it copies this into the memory, and when it encounters this function call, so that time the program counter remembers, oh yeah, there was a function something like function 1, so it will go up to that function 1 and it will try to execute it. Okay, fine. So this is your basics about functions.